Dime si vienes a mi cama, la fumamos, la fuma. Si la pasas bien, siento que soy mala.
Pose with the fans. Pose with the pose with the pose with the fans. Pose with the pose with the pose with the fans. Pose with the fans. Pose with the fans. Pose with the pose with the pose with the fans.
Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone, respected lecturer, fellow student and distinguished guests. Welcome to today's town hall debate on the motion, Malaysia should reintroduce GST. This topic remains one of the most debated economic issues in Malaysia. The Goods and Service Tax, commonly known as GST, was introduced in 2015 and later replaced by the Sales and Service Tax (SST) in 2018. Supporters believe GST provides a more differentiation system, strengthen government revenue, and improve economic sustainability. Opponents argue that GST increase the cost of living and disproportionately affect lower-income households. Today, we will hear perspectives from five important stakeholders: the government representative, business sector representative, labor union representative, public representative, and economists. At the end of the debate, we hope to gain a deeper understanding of advantage and disadvantage of GST and whether it should be reintroduced in Malaysia. Without further delay, I would like to invite the government representative to present the opening statement.
Thank you, moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, the government believes that reintroducing GST is necessary to strengthen Malaysia's economic foundation and ensure the long-term fiscal sustainability. Firstly, GST provides the broader and more reliable source of revenue compared to SST. Under SST, taxes are collected only at selected stage of production and distribution. GST, on other hand, covers the entire supply chain, making tax collection more comprehensive and efficient. A stronger revenue base allows the government to invest more in public service. This includes the healthcare facility, educational institution, public transportation system, infrastructure projects, and social welfare programs. Secondly, GST helped reduce the revenue leakage. Since business must maintain proper documentation and records, the system encourages transparency and accountability. Many successful economies such as Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada have adopted GST or VAT system because they are efficient and internationally recognized. Furthermore, Malaysia cannot rely solely on petroleum-related revenue. Global oil price fluctuate significantly, making it risky for the government to depend on them as a major source of income. We understand concern regarding living costs, therefore, essential goods and services can remain exempt or zero rate. Target subsidies and cash assistance program can also be introduced to protect vulnerable households. In conclusion, GST is not merely an taxation mechanism, it is a strategic economy tool and can strengthen Malaysian future development and financial resilience. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, government, for the opening statement. While the government focuses on revenue, we must focus on people. The reality faced by workers today is very challenging. Food prices continue to increase, rental costs are rising, transportation expenses are becoming more expensive, and wages are not increasing at the same pace. For many Malaysians, every ringgit matters. GST is a consumption tax. That means consumers pay tax whenever they purchase goods and services. While everyone pays the same GST rate, the impact is not equal. A low-income worker earning 1,700 ringgit per month and a millionaire may pay the same GST rate on purchases, but the burden on the low-income worker is much greater. This is why many economists describe GST as a regressive tax. Before discussing new taxes, the government should focus on improving workers' welfare. Minimum wages should be reviewed regularly. Employment opportunities should be strengthened and social protection systems should also be expanded. Another major concern is public confidence. Many Malaysians ask a very simple question. If the government already collects taxes, why is more revenue needed? Without convincing answers regarding accountability and efficient spending, public resistance toward GST will remain strong. Economic growth is important, but it should never come at the expense of workers and ordinary families. Thank you.
Thank you, representative from Labour Union. From the business community's perspective, GST offers significant advantage. One major advantage is efficiency. Under GST, business can claim input tax credits for taxes paid on purchases and operational expenses. This reduces the issue of double taxation and improve cost management. GST also promotes professionalism. Companies must maintain accurate records, invoice and documentation. This improves transparency and financial discipline. From an international perspective, GST is widely recognized. Investors from abroad are generally more familiar with the GST system than SST. A stable and transparent taxation framework improves investor confidence. When investment increases, business expand operations. Expansion creates employment opportunities. More jobs mean higher incomes and increased economic activity. However, the business sector acknowledges the public concern regarding inflation. Some business may attempt to misuse GST as an excuse to increase price unfairly. Therefore, strict enforcement against profiteering is necessary. The success of GST depends not only on government policies but also on responsible behavior from business themselves. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, representative from business. The public remains divided regarding the GST. Some citizens understand that the government needs stable revenue to provide quality public services. However, many Malaysians still remember the financial pressure associated with the previous GST implementation. The most important issue is trust. People want assurance that tax revenue will genuinely benefit society. Citizens expect transparency. Citizens expect accountability. Citizens expect fairness. If public funds continue to be wasted or mismanaged, people will naturally question the need for additional taxes. The public is not necessarily against taxation. Rather, people want confidence that their contributions are being used responsibly. Without trust, even the best economic policy may face resistance. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, public representative, for the opening statement. As an economic, I believe that the issue of GST should be viewed objectively and based on economic evidence rather than emotion or political preference. Economically speaking, GST is neither entirely beneficial or more entirely harmful. Like any fiscal policy, its effectiveness depends largely on how it's designed, implemented, and managed by the government. On the other hand, GST provides a broader and more sustainable tax base for the country. Unlike taxes that are rely heavily on specific sector or sources of revenue, GST allows the government to collect revenue from a wider range of economic activities. This helps strengthen government financial and reduce dependence on volatile revenue sources such as petroleum-related income. A stable source of revenue enables the government to plan and finance long-term development projects, improve public services, and invest in infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Furthermore, GST is generally considered as efficient taxation system because it minimizes the tax evasion and increases transparency in collection process. Since the tax is collected at multiple stages of production and distribution, it becomes easier for authorities to monitor transactions and ensure compliance. Many developed and developing countries have successfully adopted GST or similar value-added tax system as a part of their fiscal framework. However, GST is not without challenge. One of the major concerns is its potential impact on the cost of living. During the initial stage of implementation, businesses may pass additional costs to consumers, resulting in higher price for goods and services. This can create inflammatory pressure and disproportionately affect lower income households who spend a large portion of their income on daily necessities. Public perception of rising price can also reduce consumer confidence and create dissatisfaction among citizens. Therefore, if GST is reintroduced, it must be accompanied by strong monetary and enforcement mechanism. The government should implement effective consumer protection policy, strengthen anti-profiteering measures, and ensure that business do not exploit the system to increase price unfairly. Essential goods and services should continue to receive special consideration to protect vulnerable groups from excessive financial burden. In addition, public education and communication are crucial. Citizens need to understand why GST is being implemented, how how the revenue generated will be utilized, and what safeguards are in place to protect consumer. Transparency and accountability are essential for gaining public trust. When people are clearly see that tax revenue is being used responsibility for national development and public welfare, acceptance of the policy is likely to be increased. Ultimately, the debate surrounding GST should not focus solely on taxation itself. It should also address a broader issue such as governance, fiscal responsibility, transparency, and public confidence in government institutions. A well-managed GST system can contribute positively to economic stability and national development, while poor implementation can undermine its intended benefit. In conclusion, GST should not be judged simply good or bad. Its success depends on sound policy design, effective administration, and the government committed to protect the interests of all citizens. Therefore, the key question is not whether GST should exist, but whether it can be implemented fairly, efficiently, and transparently for the benefit of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you to our representative for your insightful opening statement. We have now heard the key argument from different stakeholders regarding the introduction of GST in Malaysia. The discussion has highlighted several important issues, including government revenue, economic growth, business competitive, workers' welfare, public trust, and the overall impact on the cost of living. We will now move into the extended rebuttal session, where representatives will have the opportunity to respond to one another argument, challenge opposing viewpoints, and further clarify their position on this motion. Without further delay, I invite the Labour Union representative to begin the rebuttal session.
Government representative, many Malaysians are already struggling financially. The cost of living has increased significantly over the years, while wage growth has not always kept pace with inflation. Many workers are finding it difficult to afford housing, transportation, food, and other essential expenses. Why should ordinary citizens be expected to pay more taxes when their incomes have not increased proportionately?
Thank you for the question. We understand the concern faced by workers and households. However, without the stable and sustainable source of revenue, the government may struggle to improve public service such as healthcare, education, and transportation and infrastructure, GST provide a broader tax base that can generate consistent revenue for national development. The additional funds can be used to improve the quality of the public service that will benefit all Malaysians, including workers and their families.
I understand the need for revenue, but many citizens feel that the burden is being placed on ordinary people. Before introducing additional taxes, shouldn't the government first focus on reducing corruption, eliminating wastage, and improving efficiency in public spending first? Citizens want assurance that existing resources are being managed responsibly before they are asked to contribute more.
This is a valid concern. The government must indeed address the corruption, strengthen governance, and improve the financial management. However, these efforts and revenue reforms do not have to be pursued separately. The government can work simultaneously to enhance transparency, reduce leakage, and establish a more sustainable taxation system. Both objectives are essential for long-term economic stability.
Many citizens remain skeptical because they worry that tax revenue may not always be used effectively. How can the public be certain that GST revenue will be managed responsibly and that the benefits will actually reach the people?
Public is extremely important. To ensure accountability, GST revenue should be subject to transparent reporting, annual audits, parliamentary oversight, and independent monitoring mechanisms. The government must regularly communicate how tax revenue is collected and spent. Greater transparency can help strengthen public confidence and ensure that taxpayers see the benefits of their contribution.
From a business perspective, a stable and predictable tax system can create a more attractive investment environment. Increased investor confidence may encourage business expansion, job creation, and economic growth. Further stronger economic growth and increased investment ultimately benefit consumers through better employment opportunities and higher income.
Long-term economic growth is certainly important. However, families are also concerned about immediate realities. Parents still need to buy groceries, pay utility bills, and support their children's education. If GST lead to higher price in the short term, citizens need practical protection measures to prevent further financial hardship.
That is understandable. This is why business and the government should work together to ensure fair pricing practices. If implemented properly, GST can coexist with target assistance programs, subsidies for essential goods, and stronger consumer protection policies.
I would also like to emphasize that workers need to see direct benefit. If GST is reintroduced, there should be parallel efforts to improve wages, strengthen social protection programs, and provide support for lower-income households. Economic policies should not place disproportionate burden on vulnerable groups.
I agree that the social protection is essential. Any GST implementation should be accompanied by target assistance measure, cash aid programs, and exemption for essential goods and service. The objective is to create a balanced approach that supports both economic growth and social welfare.
This discussion highlights an important point. The central issue is not GST itself, but whether the government can implement it effectively, transparent and fairly. GST is a simple policy instrument. Its success depends on the quality of government, the efficiency of administration, and the level of public trust in government institutions. A well-designed GST system can strengthen fiscal sustainability, support long-term development, and provide resources for essential public services. However, if implementation is weak, if transparency is lacking, or adequate safeguards are not provided, public concern will naturally increase. Therefore, policymakers must strike a balance between economic efficiency and social equity. Revenue generation is important, but so is protecting vulnerable households from excessive financial pressure. Effective communication, accountability, and anti-profiteering measure and targeted assistance program are all necessary components of successful GST framework. Ultimately, the question before us is not simply whether GST should be reintroduced. Rather, it is whether Malaysian can implement a taxation system that promotes economic growth, maintain fiscal sustainability, and at the same time protect the welfare and confidence of its citizens.
After listening to all perspectives, it is clear that GST remains a complex and sensitive issue. Supporters argue that GST improves revenue collection, strengthens fiscal sustainability, and support economic growth. Supporters argue that GST improves revenue collection, strengthens fiscal. Aku ulang balik lah. Aku tengok. Sorry. After listening to all perspectives, it is clear that GST remains a complex and a sensitive issue. Supporters argue that GST improves revenue collection, strengthens fiscal sustainability, and support economic growth. Opponents argue that GST may increase living costs and place additional burdens on lower-income households. Based on today's vote and discussion, the majority agrees that GST may be introduced only if essential goods remain accepted or zero rate, strong anti-profiteering laws are enforced, targeted financial assistance is provided to vulnerable groups, government transparency and accountability are strengthened, public confidence is restored through effective governance. Therefore, this town hall debate concludes that GST should only be introduced with adequate safeguards to protect the welfare of Malaysia while supporting long-term economic development. Thank you to everyone participation. This concludes today's town hall debate.